Wait, this is.
All right, you guys, I'm gonna call this meeting to order at 5:30. I got it just in time. It's gonna change in just a minute. Oh, okay, so let's go ahead and start with roll call. Ben? Want to do roll call?
Lisa's in the waiting room.
Oh,
I can.
thank you. Well, I thought that I'm checking that.
All right, Lisa's
Yeah, we
in.
got
Roll
Lisa.
call. Doug Mendenhall. Not here. Michaela Hammerson.
Here.
John is still. John's in the
I
Zoom.
see him on the Zoom. John, can you unmute?
Yeah, I'm here.
There he is. Mr. Todd Vaughn.
Here.
Mr. Greg Kennerly.
Yes, sir, here.
Kathy.
Ms. Kathy.
Ms. It's always very confusing with women, you never know. Lisa Lanza.
I'm here.
Got it.
All right.
Hey, you know what? Unlike some people, I know that.
All right, let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. For those online, keep yourself on mute. You can say it with us, but you don't need it. Sherry, you want to? Sure.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right along. Okay, we got our consent agenda. I don't know if you guys will look at it. We are missing our November 18th minutes. So we're gonna have to postpone that to next meeting. Then our December 5th meeting minutes are available. So are there any corrections to the December 5th minutes? This was a record meeting. I think we did it in 51 minutes. We got a lot of stuff. These minutes are actually, Zoom has a feature where AI helps write the minutes, which is really nice, but you want to definitely double check that.
If I
spelling
realized
is
that, I
correct.
would have read it one.
Yeah,
I've had experience with that.
so
Yeah,
you
you do have to tweak them a little bit sometimes.
want to just double check spelling, but it does look like everything is, in my opinion, I think it is accurate. Okay. If there are no corrections, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
I think Greg got it. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then. The November preventative maintenance report, are you presenting?
I can just speak. I mean, they've been doing really well at keeping plants, so they're 100% almost, they've been months.
Yeah.
I think we'll log in here quick, but, it's just pretty much information.
Perfect.
So,
Well, tell him great. That's awesome. Agreeing on.
yes, I think we've only had 2 months where we were at 90%, but everything else has been 100, so.
Yeah. Okay, and that does not require a motion.
Yay, team.
Yay, team. All right, we got Jennifer online. She is next up for our ODOT.
Well, I don't have a ton of information other than the STIF is due on September 16th or January 16th. I'm going to meet with Sherry this week to just review what she has and provide some specific wording on ways to make it a little bit more flexible. And then I reviewed the documents that you guys have submitted. There were a couple of corrections that needed to be made. I did not have a chance to review the corrections that George made this afternoon. I had meetings up until 5 o'clock and then my computer crashed. So I am on my home computer today for the meeting. We are going to have some trainings coming up. We don't have specific times and dates, but we'll be letting folks know about that. And then the one other thing that I really want you guys to think about is dates that you'd like to have me do some training for the board as far as the funding, because that is one of the requirements that is on the list for needing to take place. So if we can get something scheduled, then I can go ahead and start preparing all the information for you. And yeah, I think that's it, unless you have questions for me.
Okay. Perfect. Ben, maybe we could have, Ben has an executive assistant now. Maybe we could have her schedule the training for the board and Jennifer Boardman,
Yeah, absolutely.
give her a task. Cool.
Yep.
Okay, I've been meaning to do it, but you know, it's,
Would that be, you know, how long? Is that like a whole day thing?
I
or
think
is
it's like
that
an hour training. How long is the training, Jennifer?
It's probably about 2 to 2.5 hours if we
2.5
really
hours.
dive into it. Yeah.
Okay,
And would that be in person or remote?
I think we could probably do it either way. What do you think, Jennifer? Are you gonna be here in person for the training or are you doing it remotely?
It's up to you all. As long as the weather is good, I can make it over the mountain. But I can do it remotely as well.
You would probably like remote, right?
Probably easier, but
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm, you know, well, here again, it's just
Yeah,
things can change.
why we can't do it like hybrid.
hybrid,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if we can get that scheduled, that would be awesome.
Okay.
Any questions for Jennifer, you guys? No? Is anybody opposed to me moving, number 11 up to right now?
Not on the
11.1, it's not on agenda, but it is what Jennifer was just talking about with these changes to the procurement policy. And George is online, so he can talk to us about it. Are there anybody opposed to me moving this up?
No.
Okay, just because it's pertinent for right now. So to give just a little bit of background, we made a ton of changes to the procurement policy to be in alignment with the compliance review. There were some things that were missing that Jennifer sent over to George to have him add. She hasn't had a chance to look at the procurement policy yet. I also haven't had a chance to look at it in detail, and I know you guys haven't either because it was just sent over right before the meeting. So what I was kind of hoping is we might get George to be able to speak to some of the changes he made. It would be nice if we could get something written out that just sort of highlights what was changed in the document so that we can see specifically where those were made, but I understand he pretty much was working on this until the deadline today. So, so maybe just have him speak to that, and then we probably need to table this until Jennifer's had a chance to review it and we've had a chance to review it as a board.
You wanna unmute George?
Yeah, I would love for George to tell us
Do we have
about
any
what he's,
paperwork that we're looking at?
oh, it's,
Hi,
should've been
everybody.
added
Can you hear me?
in the very back. 11.1.
Yeah, the very back of the packet.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, George.
Up there.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a lot of changes that I've made on here. And so Jennifer and I had a conversation this morning of sections that were missing or that I needed to do a little bit more writing on. As I was going through that, I started reviewing the whole procurement policy, and the policy and some of the language was, some of it wasn't too clear, or there was a little bit of some redundancy in the policy. So I really started going through the entire policy as I was writing it to make sure that it would make sense as I was going through. So for me to highlight, I mean, it would literally be like 300 different areas that I would have to go back and look at and tell you what the changes are. But I can go over sort of high level overview of some sections that were dramatically changed or added to the policy. Let me go here.
We can do a document comparison as well, where we
Mhm.
take the original and
There are some things that I know are just additions, like I can just like look at it, glance at it quickly and see, and I feel your pain on that, George, because I went through the entire thing and we sort of have made those piece by piece changes over the last few board meetings. So yeah, there's a lot.
So, yeah. So, you all have done a great job with, you know, the policies and procedures. I just needed to make some additional things. So when we look at 1.6 at Buy America, I needed to add a little bit more language under the FTA. Jennifer was able to provide me with that language, so there's nothing too much that I did except for adding some of the language into the Buy America. And that's honestly the last sentence there.
Okay, I see that. Okay,
In section right below 2.1.6, it's about accessible format and public communication.
What number, George?
2.1.6.
Okay.
This was from a finding within the audit. And so I already had been working on this, and this is all about public communication. So I needed to be able to create a policy and procedure about how we will.
now is this for procurement or is this?
This is for procurement. So this
This
falls
seems
under
like
our
the-
responsibility as we're putting out procurement. And what is our responsibility in that communication and that procedure?
Okay. Because I thought we had added something similar to this when we were doing our like notices that are at the bus stops and in the office and. What
Now,
about
this is,
that was a
That was-
standalone,
That was a standalone, that was Title VI. That
Okay.
was- Yeah, that was a Title VI.
and this isn't similar to that.
Mm-mm.
no, this is how we'll communicate with the public on our procurement.
Okay, so these are all new. 2.1.6.1 through what?
Through 2.1.6.7 is new.
All the way through those.
And then a lot of the changes are going to be in the next section, which is 3.0 methods of procurement.
Okay,
And so I added some new sections: administration system procedures, independent cost estimate for all purchases. And then I added some additional language in the micro purchases.
okay. But this is on the.
George, before my computer crashed on that section under micro purchases, I think you mentioned the $150,000 threshold for state funded. But
Yes,
because the state's level is 150,000, you have to do it for all. Because even for federal, you have to follow all your procedures. You can't do federal at 250,000, even though the feds have their rate at 250,000. We have to follow what Oregon does. So you might want to tweak the wording on that part so that it doesn't just say 200 or 150,000 for state funded. It has to be 150,000 for all grant funds.
oh, okay,
Because that's what Oregon requires. Yep.
got it, okay.
That's the only, and then my computer crashed. That's as far as I got. So
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, I just changed that verbiage.
So it's gonna say threshold of 150,000 for all grant funded procurements?
Hmm.
Okay, instead of for state.
And yeah, because the original policy stated the 250,000, but we needed to add language saying that we're gonna go adhere to states, which is 150. And so when I made that change, I put for all state funded. I just need to put for all funded procurement.
Okay.
Does that restrict us at all? I mean, if we have federal funds only that we're using for a project and then, but we're having to be held by the state standard? Like, are we holding ourselves to a stricter standard than we need to? That might
No,
be a
you're
question.
required to. Yeah, by the state guidelines, you have to stick with whatever the state has. So if you all decided you wanted to have your threshold at $100,000, then you would stick with the 100,000. So you're supposed to stick with whatever is the most restrictive. So if the feds, raised theirs to 500 and Oregon kept it at 150, which there is a possibility they're going to increase it because you can hardly buy anything for $150,000 anymore. So there is a possibility they'll change it and then you'll have to tweak your policy. But no, it's a requirement under procurement policies that you go with the most restrictive language or thresholds.
So if we say we're following the state policies or we're following the federal policies, or we adhere to whatever the current policy is, to me, it seems a little bit redundant that it's like, well, we're already required to do that and we will follow the state or follow the federal. Why would we impose on ourselves additional language that makes it difficult for us to follow whatever the state or federal guidelines are? Like, why would we even put a number in there?
Yeah.
Why can't we just say we follow the state or we follow the federal? We follow what the requirements are.
Cause then you don't have to
That's-
keep changing it, right?
That's what the requirements are for having that in there, the threshold amount, so that somebody knows what your thresholds are. That's just the requirement.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense because yes, you do have to go in and you have to modify it. You should be reviewing your procurement policy every year because there are changes that are made. So it's something that you should put on a regular review just to make sure that all of the matrix are current and all of the guidance that the FTA has is current.
So not to put you on the spot or anything, if you don't know the answer to it off the top of your head, but where is the requirement that says we have to put this into our own policy? Is that like a administrative rule? Is it
I think it's
where
under
does it-
200 CFR something. I'm not sure exactly, but it's under the Office of
see it.
Management and Budget requirements, and it's probably in your final report from RLS for the reference.
Okay. Perfect.
Jennifer, I have a clarifying question. So, when it comes to micro purchases, I remember when I was at OHA, we'd have to adhere to also, conflicting federal and state. We had the opportunity as an agency, though, to to increase those limits on micro purchases. And, you know, we actually increased it to about 500,000 because you're right, can't almost not buy anything for 150,000 anymore. So does your process, is that something that ODOT can determine, or do you have to go through the state legislature to get that policy change?
We have to go by whatever Oregon procurement policies have, and the Oregon procurement policies have it set at $150,000. Until they modify that, that has to be the thresholds that you have on your document. So while the feds, and you want to spell out that the federal government procurement levels thresholds are 250,000. However, Oregon's are 150. But no, we cannot modify that. You know, you'd have to petition through the rule, because it's a rule.
Right.
That's yeah. But I don't know why the Oregon does not go with the federal standards. It's pretty peculiar that they have a different threshold, but I guess that's not unusual, because I was on a meeting today on the AASHTO meeting, and another state said, well, our procurement policies are more stringent than what the federal governments say, but then that's what we have to go by. So we're not the only state that does it. There are other states that do this as well.
Yeah, I think my concern is just the redundancy of writing a policy that already exists at the state and federal level, and not just referencing that we follow that policy. It seems to be creating an administrative nightmare.
But you would have to argue that with RLS and with the rule, so.
I'm gonna look it up. Thank you, Jennifer. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, but I appreciate you.
George in background.
Okay.
Would be my son.
So George, you were at 3.2. You were at 3. Oh, we have 2 3.2s, so we'll have to update the numbering. So
That's cool.
we'll just have to fix that. It goes from 3.2 to 3.2.
Yeah, it
So
should be
we'll just update the numbering on that. But okay, we are at 3.2.
Perfect. Oh, and the numbering's wrong here. I see that.
Yeah, 3.3 micro purchases should be, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. So from there, let me scroll down. Let me see what else was changed. I believe those 3 sections that I told you about, I believe, are the only ones. The other things were just minor changes and verbiage.
I think you said some grammatical stuff, right?
Yeah, and just some grammatical things. Let's see here.
Yeah, I think everything else stayed the same.
Everything else stayed the same.
I have to get that one edited. So that I'll
Fix
go.
the chairs.
Blame it on the chair.
Andre fixed the
Oh,
chairs.
no, I'm sorry. There's one more. So if you go down to 8.0,
8.0.
yes. So this was for disputes. We needed to have a process of what our dispute would look like if someone were to challenge the solicitation. And so here I put in a step-by-step process of what that dispute process would look like. And that takes you all the way down to 8.2.
Okay. So I have a question about this, and sorry, I have a lot of questions, but my understanding as a board is we create policy, we don't create process. We put a policy in place, and then it's the freedom of the CEO and the district to create the procedures. Do you think that this is more of a procedure or more of a policy?
Can I speak to that?
Yes.
Sorry, George, and you can definitely follow up. It appears to me that in government, the policy and the process are combined into one. So our policy has the information that's required. And then that also includes the process. And so it's a weird melding of things, but it seems to me that this is my perception from working with ODOT for 7 weeks, is that they want the policy is the process. And we, by stating what the, our thresholds are, this is the process, this is the threshold. The process has to meet up with, or be in compliance with the law and the regulations. So, these things this would be a better situation, if not under the gun, to get these compliance issues appeased. But every time we modify these things, we really truly need to be able to get traction on the process and the operation. And we're pushing so hard right now to meet these crazy deadlines in terms of our 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, 120-day, that it's really not, what's the right word for it? Like there's almost we're not doing it in a way that it actually improves the organization. But if we this would be something we would build over years. A period of time. I mean, I thought George said that to me over the phone today. He said, this would take years to actually develop and implement and make it and integrate it into the operation. Right now, we're just like, what do you need? Here you go. And then we need to go back and really look at all this over time and say, what are we, and this is what George is tasked or challenged to do as the compliance officer, is to map these documents out. And together we look at what does this mean from a process standpoint? And then, writing it down on paper pleases ODOT and RLS.
It does until,
and
I'm gonna push back on it a little
Yeah.
bit, because once you put it in writing, that this is actually what you have to do to appease them, and you miss a step, you have a finding. So
Right.
if you don't have this, and you have a separate document that outlines what your procedure is, and you don't have to go to the board every single time you want to change your procedure, then you don't have a finding. And so that's where I'm a little bit hesitant to outline, and I'm actually looking at it from the perspective of making sure that the district has control over their own district, over the staff, to make decisions without having to come back to the board for approval. Because when we accept this, then you guys have to come back to us to change it.
Right.
So,
Like in any way or materially.
no, if you
Well,
change the
that's-
process, you have to come to us and have it approved.
Right.
If the policy is written in here and the policy is high level, and then you guys have the freedom to create the procedure, then you create the procedure on your own. You don't come back to the board. You make sure it has certain elements, but we keep those high level so that you have the freedom to accomplish that process on your own.
It gives you more autonomy
Exactly.
with us as overseers.
Right.
But not getting our faces into everything you do.
Well, and I think that's wonderful and I appreciate that. But the thing is that we have to do it this way or we're gonna have a finding. And so part of the process, it appears to me, is we get this dialed in the way it's supposed to be. Then we actually need to go in and implement it and decide what that looks like. As long as we're meeting up with this policy, which is also kind of a procedure, but not really.
So
So
the state agency is.
So
the
if I can chime in here,
Kind of, yeah.
There's a lot of micromanaging going on in the state.
Yeah,
for
and that's what I mean. So
Yeah.
it's the state saying we have to micromanage, even though technically we are not supposed to be
Well,
To a
micromanaged.
degree, yeah.
I think we have a responsibility to make sure that
That's-
is
I would agree.
actually the case.
I would agree.
Because I understand RLS may believe that something is
Right.
whatever, but I also want to know that that actually is the
I
case.
think that that's.
So
very
where
wise.
does it say that that's how it has to happen? And I will say that because, I think most people on this call and in this room can agree that we don't necessarily think Oregon government is being run 100% the way that we want it to be run, or the federal government for that matter. And if we're in this position of, making sure that we're in compliant, but also not providing unnecessary overreach and red tape, we don't want to do that because we know red tape is not very profitable. You look at what's happened with, ODOT funds being spent in Portland. And there's a lot of waste that's happened, and now we have a transportation package coming up to try to fix some of that problem. So there's a lot of red tape that I think we would love to try to eliminate
We'd be better stewards.
if we can.
If we were doing it the most feasible way, not the most bureaucratic way.
Right.
I'm just gonna read
No argument for me.
hold on,
Could
George.
could I step in for a second?
Yeah.
Give me 1 second, George. Let me just read what Jennifer wrote. Jennifer wrote that the board is supposed to know what the rules and requirements are to ensure that the employees are doing what is in the policy. Until you change the rule, you must follow the guidelines. Go ahead, George.
Okay, so taking politics aside, I think I want to go back to what the chair said. It's true. We need to be challenging ourselves. Is this going to be a step-by-step process, or is this just a procedure high level that the board reviews and allows that discretion to the CEO to make those daily procedures? And I think that that's a very good recommendation. And I think as we sort of go through this exercise together, we have to constantly be asking ourselves, what is the role of government? What is our role as the board members? What is our role as the executive team in order to move things forward? So I think that, these policies and procedures, we're going to consistently kind of need to go back to, especially in the new year, really framing out. And like, as Ben stated, I did say earlier to him, we really need to map this out and really look at it and make sure that it does fall in line with what the board needs in order to be able to govern. And then that way it does take out some of those maybe step-by-step procedures that maybe are in there that we don't realize right now because we're moving very quickly. So let me do this. How about this? Based off of the feedback, let me take this step-by-step out. Let me frame it more in general terms for the board to govern instead of a step-by-step procedure. And then allow me the time with Jennifer. Jennifer has been excellent, partner with us to help us get compliance, in place. Her and I can review it. We'll review the entire policy, and then we can submit it back to the board for your next meeting for that way, so you can review and approve it. The bad thing about when we're moving so quickly, we're just throwing a whole bunch of information in there, right? Because we're trying to clear the finding and the audit, and sometimes you have to just pump the brakes. So a lot of writing and a lot of work have been done by by Sherry, by Ben and myself just in the past few weeks. Let us pump the brakes a little bit. We'll take this feedback and then let us work with ODOT so we can present you a better copy. Does that sound reasonable to everybody?
I love it, George.
We appreciate all the
Yes.
work you guys have done too. It's not
Yeah.
to be discrediting.
George and Sherry have pulled late nighters all
I know.
night.
Yeah.
Like,
know.
it's crazy to meet these deadlines,
I
and
know.
I just gotta say that, it's been intense for both of them. And
Yeah,
a little bit intense for me, but mostly for them.
But I do think I appreciate what Michaela's bringing out. Because in the long run, that's the most healthy thing. So I appreciate, George, that you are, you're handling it the way you are too.
And the main issue is getting the compliance issues lined out.
Yeah,
And we can tweak this anytime we want in the future.
right.
Is that correct?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, so it sounds like we can go through, and now we have time, you guys can go through and read some of the other things that he brought forth, but we'll go ahead and table it until the next meeting. And that'll give Jennifer an opportunity to read it too, so. George, thank you so much for everything that you've done. I really want to express that this is in no way minimizing any of the work that you've done. We know you're an incredibly talented person. We're very lucky to have you on the team, so we appreciate you so much.
No problem. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so back to our regularly scheduled program. Our financial report, that's gonna be you, Sherry.
Has everybody had a chance to review the financial report?
I did look through it, yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about it? The most important part is the P and L that's, from 2018 through the current, because that captures every bit of income and every bit of expenses until November 30th. So, we ended November with 656,000 of a net income. We were in the negative for the current fiscal year, but that does not capture the cash on hand that we had at the end of the fiscal year. in June.
And so what is our projection right now for cash on hand? I mean, for our operating expenses, yeah, we're good through February?
No, we'll be good getting us through the end of this year. I think I just sent. Find what I just sent to Ben. I just sent him some information last week.
I have that report. in my stack.
Okay. We will be okay getting to the end of this fiscal year.
Okay,
I did some projections for Ben based on paying those chargers back. And I don't know if you wanted to speak to any of it.
Not tonight.
Not tonight, okay. Um,
But at some
But-
point,
yeah, at some point we will have to discuss
we
it.
we will be discussing it.
Yeah, we will be okay getting through the end of this fiscal year.
That's
The
amazing.
projections are still pretty good, so. Unless, something catastrophic happens, which I don't foresee happening. We are projected to get through the end of this year with about 400,000, I think.
Perfect.
But we do have to.
I am so happy to hear this. You guys, we were like really close.
2 weeks from insolvency when I started.
It's gonna be close. I mean, we're gonna have to meet our compliance so that,
Yep.
ODOT is willing to release the funds in a timely manner to us and all of that, so.
Yep. Well, that's
you know,
why I appreciate you guys working so hard on the
Yes.
compliance finding.
Based on,
So,
based on the funds that are projected to still come in and the expenses that are going out, we will be okay, so.
And that includes the electrical, whatever chargers, being put on the back burner for now.
We will have to address that with ODOT at some point,
Mhm.
so,
And it's been, we're in discussions with ODOT right now.
Good.
Yeah, looking for solutions and working through what we should do so that we can present to you guys
what we should do.
what we should do or what the options are.
Mhm.
And hopefully we'll think of all the options, but that's in process right now.
Yep.
Yeah. Cleaning up the mess.
Beautiful.
yes.
Do we need to approve this?
I think you just have to motion to accept it.
Oh, we can, yeah. We're not gonna correct you. All right. Do I have a
Nope.
motion to accept the financial report?
I'll make a motion to accept the financial
Okay.
report. Yeah.
And a second?
Second.
Second,
Kathy. Sorry, Lisa.
Lisa can
It's
have
the
it.
delay.
Delay, man.
Lisa,
Delay
get
gets
it.
you
You get it, Lisa. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I go too fast. I do that sometimes. Okay, 6.2. So funding recommendations from the SISTAC committee. Are you presenting this?
I am.
Okay.
Okay, so we met with the Stiff Stack Committee, we got their final recommendations, so these are their recommendations. What you're looking at is the far right column where it says recommended 2-year stiff allocations. That's what we're concentrating on tonight, so, this is laid out in a way, and I've explained it to Kathy already, because she was at the Stiff Stack Committee. So project one, this is how our stiff plan is currently laid out. So project one is our population-based funding. The population-based funding has to pay for senior and disabled type services. So our paratransit, City of Reedsport, Sunrise and DRTF, paratransit, and our call center. So that's what gets, the task one is our call center match. So our call center is mostly funded. As you can see, it says for the biennium 25 to 27, that column, that's what's projected for the expenses. Okay. For the 2 years. And the next column over that says federal funding, that's the federal funds that I've already done the applications for. And then the next column is our funds. So our fare box, our NEMT money, any of our income. And then that far right column is the stiff allocations. So if you take the federal, our funds and the stiff, those 3 columns should add up to that, to the biennium, the 25 through 27. So task one is the call center. It should be task two. Task two is the City of Reedsport match. So the City of Reedsport has done an application for the federal, for a part of our federal funds. Sunrise also did an application for part, but they only get our state funds, so they are not federally funded at all.
Okay.
And then the demand response preventative maintenance, that's on all of our vans. And then the UPTD paratransit, that's our drivers, that's their wages, salary, their salaries, benefits, all of that. That task number 7, the reserve bucket. So I know when we talked about the stiff plan before and Cheryl was talking about the 20%. So what she was doing before, ODOT gives us a projection and they say, this is what we're projecting for you to get for the biennium. Then they tell us to plan a bucket for 20% over what they're projecting, because it is a projection. And if the taxes and the funding come, and if they come in higher and we haven't asked for it, we can't get it.
Right.
But if we've asked for it, then we can get the additional funds.
Okay.
So the problem that was happening before is she took that 20% and spread it over all the different tasks. And then acted as if we
had
actually
it.
got it.
Right.
So, I've been in communication with Jennifer. I've attended many of the stiff training and the discussions that they've had over the past, couple of months. And the recommendation is to make a task, a standalone task, and this is where Jennifer and I are gonna be working on the verbiage that we are going to put into that task, so it will allow us to use it for many different things and not just tie it to one specific thing.
Okay.
So that task 7 is 20, so, okay. ODOT came out with projections in August,
Okay.
and then they recently came out with a little bit higher projections. They wanted us to base the 20% overage though off of the August projections, not the newest ones. I don't know why, but that's the direction that we've been given. So that 20% was based off of a lesser amount. But that's what that is. All of these other ones are pretty concrete, because we're gonna need all of these allocations that are in that far right column to sustain current services.
Okay.
Okay, project number 2, that is all of our fixed route services. So that's our Roseburg route, our red line, green line, Saturday service, Sutherland, Winston, South County, and then our kids that ride free. we currently, that is how our STIF plan is set up and.
Yeah.
And to sustain those services as we are doing them today, those are the numbers that we would need in the far right. Task number 7 is a reserve bucket.
Mhm.
And that is just for, because these are payroll-based taxes that
Mhm.
pay this funding, and we can use these funds on anything. They're not just tied to senior and disabled type services. So
So
we have that
more
20%,
allocated
yep.
there.
Task 8, and then on the back, 9, 10, and 11, and 12. Those are on our current STIF plan. Cheryl had put in there, they're kind of like wish list items. To
So why don't we
expand
have
services.
any allocated there? Can that come out of number 7 if we,
If we end
end up
up
being
getting
able to?
additional funds and the
yeah,
board decides, you know, that's, or, well, I guess I don't even know that the board would have to decide if the language
as
is.
long as it's in there, you
Yes.
guys can make that
Right.
decision.
We can make that decision to expand the services.
We've
But we
definitely
didn't wanna
heard that.
tie them into any of those buckets specifically because if,
Then
you know.
you have to move it later.
right.
Yeah, okay.
Project number 3 is, task 1, that's our, just our dial-a-ride services.
Mhm.
And so there isn't anything additional there. Project 4 is all of our administrative, costs,
Mhm.
all of our
Does that
employees that are.
include training?
That includes, yes, it includes salaries and benefits and all of the other material and services
Okay.
categories for administrative. And then we have project 5 and 6. So currently we have them in our plan. We spent all the money under the
Mhm.
vehicle purchase and the capital improvement building. That's the one that we did have to take some of the funds to pay the overage on the vehicles that was
Mhm.
paid. So there isn't very much left on that anyways, but the stiff stack committee just wanted to make a reserve bucket and put $200,000 in that to improve for the improvement of technology, which is i.e. either my accounting system
Mhm.
or an app to help with, you know, the busing system, real time type of app or where the
And
Public
50,000
can
for
pay.
bus shelters.
and
too?
50,000 is what they wanted for bus shelters.
So your app. Or your software that you need
Mhm.
is 130,000,
About that.
so that leaves 70,000 for an app. Which I'm not opposed to, I actually think it's a great idea, we could sell tickets on the app. We should have an app.
Well, you can also, you can do QRs, like your
Mhm.
monthly can be like, "Whoop, got your pass."
All sorts of things,
Yeah,
Now,
there's
take-
also the,
but
keep in mind that these project 7 are for the 20% overage, so it's based on if we get the additional.
Right.
funds. So it's not-
also, I don't know if $70,000 is gonna cut it for implementing something like that. Do we have any idea? We haven't done any pricing.
apps are essentially, yeah, we can, 70,000, we could do it for less than that for sure. If we wanted to
Cause
go
don't
that
they
route.
charge user, I mean, that's what they were talking about at the meeting, that with some of them.
It's called Move It
The
was the one
person
that
who
they
has
presented.
the app on their phone is paying for it,
And-
we're not paying for it.
Sure, but then we have to have like, on the buses, they would have to be able to scan the
Right.
QR
Yeah.
code,
Yeah,
like.
we use technology.
An app is a website that's designed for phones, so, you essentially can make a website and then you just, there's so many things we can do just with basic web technology. But what's also to be considered would be, advertising inventory, which
Mhm.
we don't have, like, we have shelters, but we need benches.
Mhm.
And we also need advertising capability within the buses.
Mhm.
Most big metro area transit systems have spaces to advertise in the corner ceilings. We need to be able to bring in diversify where money comes from and
Mhm.
create opportunities for the local community to support its transit system. And we're working on that right now. We already started down that path in terms of putting together a plan for that. So anything that could generate, that can help us generate additional revenue from the community in a way that is increasing our service. I think anything we bring in needs to, that we seek from the community should have a direct correlation to the improvement of service. And so, it's been 7 weeks, on the job. Still don't know what it's like to ride the bus in Roseburg. We've been so tied up with, compliance issues. And onboarding and getting through this process, but I think we're gonna start to see some light in terms of being able to get us all where we need to be, so we can start doing that kind of stuff, so. Yeah, we can look into all that stuff, we can do, the sky's the limit if
So I have another
we can put that
question.
money.
I'm full of questions.
Oh, we love questions.
I know, well,
And the chair, you should have nothing but questions.
this is interesting stuff. So, the administrative, how does that compare to our administrative from last year? Because I think there are several things. We do have some technology improvements, I think, that need to probably happen. You know, we have talked about potentially getting laptops for the staff, possibly also, you know, tablet or laptop for the board. What else am I thinking of? Oh, and then training, that's the other thing. We need training for everyone, not just for the board, but for the staff members. We need to be working on developing people. We need to make sure that we have, you know, really solid transit knowledge. Is this giving us any additional flexibility? Because I feel like our budget this time, we've kind of already heard, like, maybe we've spent everything. There might not be as many opportunities for people to receive training, and I think that we should invest in the
Well, it's
staff.
definitely something that we're gonna have to talk about as we're building the new budgets.
Mhm.
To see how, you know, increasing those categories, how that filters out and where it really lands us, but
Mhm.
this is, keep in mind, this is just the stiff, so that I can build the stiff plan.
Sure,
With the funds that ODOT has projected that we are going to receive. So
okay,
this is, I based this off of maintaining services today
Mhm.
and being able to give the drivers at least a COLA increase.
Thank you.
Yeah, because they haven't had anything, and I think it was at a 3%, which, you know, is not a lot, but it's something, and
Mhm.
I would rather try to figure out, you know,
When's the
cutting
last time
some,
they got a raise?
a year ago in July,
How much was that?
they got a 5% COLA.
Okay.
And then some of them they did get their merits, last year, but.
A
they
year and
haven't
a half
gotten-
ago.
Yeah, they haven't gotten
Because
anything.
this last year, when it came time to do that,
Mhm.
we were facing a budget crisis and there was no money to do it. And it was a really tough discussion that we had to have. It wasn't fun.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
We're working on ways to get the drivers and the dispatch on a regular schedule of
Mhm.
reviews and every employee in reviews. Again, that's not what ODOT and RLS is interested in.
Right.
They're interested in compliance and getting there. We have to get that done. But again, we're halfway through that compliance nightmare.
Mhm.
And getting free of it and getting it into and getting these processes implemented so that we do not have any more findings will open us up
To be able
to get in there. And I'm essentially right now under the org chart overseeing transit operations.
Mhm.
I have not given them enough attention. It's, we do connect with the drivers, we do connect with the supervisors, but it needs help. And so I cannot wait to get me out of here so that I can go help go work on help the drivers and get that set up, which we're getting close to. I mean, George, we just onboarded literally last week.
Yeah.
We
happy.
onboarded an executive assistant last week, and boy, George onboarded like a plane flying off an aircraft carrier. Okay, it was
He knows.
he was, yeah, yeah, he was like back against the seat. And but there were some moments where I saw Sherry, she's like, well, cool, George has this. You know, 'cause we're relieving that pain that's been on individuals carrying the load. And
Yep.
so, yeah, hopefully we can, you know, we're looking good. I think the strategy of the operation of the org chart is working.
Yeah.
But again, George started last week. I mean, that's the craziest thing about it. I feel like he's been with us for 6 months because it feels like 6 months in last week.
Keep in mind that, you know, once we we pull into compliance and we stay there and we prove that we are doing things the right way, that will open up funding opportunities again for us.
Mhm.
We have not been eligible for some of the discretionary funds because of our current situation.
Mhm.
So, I think that getting the compliance under control, getting it pulled into.
That's
where we
priority
need it to
one.
be,
Yeah.
Priority one, show ODOT that we're doing it the right way,
Mhm.
and then that way we could become eligible for some additional funding. And, we can apply for that when those opportunities do come, because they do come. We just haven't been able to
Yeah,
apply for them, and the ones that we have applied for, we've been ineligible to
yeah.
move forward, so.
Well, I just wanna say, we took a lot of pushback when we hired you, Ben. And it was because of a lack of experience in the transit field, and I think that this is just like a validation that we made the right decision. Everything looks so good compared to when it did back there, and thank you, man, we knew you'd step up, or we wouldn't have got behind you to begin with.
Well-
And you're stepping up, brother, thank you.
It means a lot. The only thing I really had to do was free the hostages. And then they ran out of there and started doing the thing. So I haven't done much. A lot of this has been culturally in terms of being like, here's what we're gonna do, and it's been a journey, but yeah, the real heroes are, you know, everyone that's stuck through this.
Yeah.
Sharon, you've done it without Sharon, Andre, you know, I don't, we have a dispatch supervisor. I've never had one problem from dispatch.
Yeah,
Like,
I
not
know.
one peep, not nothing.
She's amazing.
And then we've bumped up people into supervisory roles
Mhm.
down in transit. We've taken emergency actions to keep good drivers. We haven't done enough down there, but I can already see the culture and development of
Mhm.
our new supervisors. They're strengthening, this has been a very cool experience. I mean, it really has been. And to learn, you know, about the government and everything else and how that works.
Well, I do
It's
hope
fascinating.
people are taking notes,
Yeah.
because like you said,
Mhm.
we got a lot of flack.
Yeah,
And it was really unjustly so.
yeah,
And so, I'm just really I appreciate that you are enabling the people to rise up and do what they need to do to, like Sherry and George and everybody
Mhm.
else. And I have a question for you.
Okay,
Under project one, is it just misnumbered, or?
it
is-
was just misnumbered, it
Okay.
should be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and
To be
6.
nitpicky.
So sorry about that, yeah,
No.
no,
Good catch though.
yes,
Okay.
it was numbered different, I took what we currently have and just placed it in there, but then, DRTF did not apply
Oh,
for any
yeah.
of the funds.
Don't
so
you
that took
agree
one
though,
of the
Michaela?
passes
This
out
is
of
like,
there.
Okay.
so you were at that meeting too, Ben, I think, weren't you? Where they were going over
There's
this stuff,
70
that was like brain numbing, it
Yeah.
was so
And
hard.
again,
It was a lot.
So you have
No,
done.
that was the
such-
That was the first
PowerPoint.
one?
It was the long
Oh,
PowerPoint.
Yeah,
that
one, yeah, the
Oh,
slideshow.
Okay, never mind, yeah.
Yeah, you have done such a good job making this work.
I just have one question for Jennifer, online. Jennifer, on the population-based funding and the payroll-based funding, should we have a reserve bucket specifically in those two areas since it is funding, correct? The separate fundings?
The population-based funding would not be something that is gonna be variable. It's just the payroll base that will be variable. 'Cause
Okay,
the population base is, it's a set amount and it does not, the only time that you're gonna make it, if the legislature decides to increase the funding, then you would, but the
Okay.
payroll base is the only one that has any variability in it.
okay, so I just broke it out in the allocations, cause I wasn't sure if it needed to be separated, so that 122,000,
Mm-hmm,
that's under task 7,
yeah,
we would just combine that with the
Oh.
task 7 below.
And it would go
Combine it with
down
which one?
into that.
What are you?
Task 7,
So
Oh,
go into
these
project
two.
two tax, yes.
Yeah. So you guys just, let me, just map that out really quickly. 7,
And then your total would be different for
Mhm.
the project one.
right,
And it's going down into project two, you said.
right.
How much is it?
It'll be 540,078, and we would just, eliminate that task 7 up in project 1. I just put it there because I wasn't sure if we had to keep it separate.
Okay, so do you recommend any changes?
I don't recommend any changes. I think, Jennifer's, directive to just do the one reserve bucket and then word it in a way that it can be used
More
more,
flexible?
more
Mhm.
flexibly. Is a great idea. The only 2 things that, you guys would have to decide, that project 7 and 8 on the second page. Where the stiff stack committee put those fixed numbers in there, you just would have to decide if you wanted to.
So we have $250,000 that we need to decide if that's what we want to spend it on. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because those are their recommendations, so, and you're taking their recommendations and you're either
Mhm.
gonna accept them or you're going to modify them.
I think they're great ideas. I mean, do you have any other thoughts about something better? Do we have to be restrictive? Does it have to be in 2 different buckets? Or,
Jennifer, do we have to have a specific bucket for capital? We do, don't we? Or can we keep that 20% overage and can it be all inclusive?
If you're going to spend money on a capital project, so if you have any plans to get any buses, you would need to have a project that, just would say bus replacement. So you would need to have that in there. If you don't have it in there, then you can't just say contingency is gonna buy a bus. You have
Right.
to have an actual task or project for the
Mhm.
Yeah,
capital.
so I guess you guys need to decide if you wanna put any of this 540 of the contingency, and do you wanna specifically put it under vehicle, under the vehicle purchase? I mean, we currently will not have any grants, federal grant money for it, for new vehicles. But that's not to say that we don't get into compliance and we aren't able to apply for some down the road. And if we don't build in some match money, then we won't be able to use it that way and our big buses are pretty tired.
The new bus that was ordered prior is a short bus. We got 30 short buses out there we're not even using.
It's not as,
So it's
yeah,
a
it's not as big as we were hoping it was
It's
going
not-
to be.
It's not what's needed. There's another
small bus?
bad purchase. We need the larger buses. We just had a record day a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, that was disappointing to find out that, but yeah, we found that out.
Okay, well, we have.
It's not as, can I chime in? It's not as
Yeah.
big as the internationals, but it is bigger than any of the 550s that we currently have. So it's kind of in between. It's still not what we need, but it is bigger than I've been talking to Ken at Shetsky Bus, and it's a 32-foot, almost a 32-foot bus, and it's right in between what our 550s are currently and between the international. So, but we need 3 large buses. And I think part of that was when we were going to go electric, that was why the buses were never purchased.
What are the chances that we can sell some of our oversupply of the smaller
That's
buses?
what I was wondering.
You can't because you can only maximum get $10,000 out of them.
3 of them are brand new that were just purchased a year ago. And
And
the
they're not
other,
in use.
and the other 4 are older, but they're slightly, they're bigger than the 3 little ones that we just got. So
Can
they
we
get the most
barter?
use.
With other.
Yeah, we might be able to barter.
Can you break up the flow to be able to use those other buses, or you have another driver? and
We need
everything?
to divide the ridership.
Divide the rider-ups?
You end up,
Yeah,
you end up spending a lot of money on
yeah,
labor.
Like,
yeah.
But
And
you,
gas.
And gas.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
just,
amazing.
it's like buying for what was last year instead of what's gonna be next year, so. Now we have a forward thinking team, so we'll be able to say, what are we gonna need next year? Cause that bus was supposed to be delivered, my understanding was September.
Yeah,
But we
and
might run
then,
into that
well,
again.
and then Shepke said it was gonna be December, but I think,
Likely will, yeah.
Andre, did they say mid-January?
Well, I spoke to them on Friday. I spoke to Ken and they were waiting on the camera equipment for the bus. So right now they've got KIM, who we use to do the inspections. They're kind of in a holding pattern at this point.
Okay.
You almost wanna
So-
tell them, hey, give that bus to somebody else, we want this big bus.
It doesn't work that way.
You're 6
unfortunately.
months late.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't part of that plan.
Yeah,
your-
like,
Your penalty for being late.
sorry, yeah.
So what is your recommendation to move this so that it can be used for a bus? Or is there any flexibility once that's allocated for the bus? It's stuck there?
It's stuck there,
Yeah.
but that's 20% over, so if we don't get it anyway, if we
Yeah,
don't get the
this
money
is all
anyways,
Dream money.
then, yeah, it's all,
So we've gotten dream money before.
we have gotten dream money before, but,
So we need a bigger bus, so that's something we really need anyway, right?
Do we need a bigger bus more than we need expanded service?
yes.
I know that fire departments do
I
a
mean,
lot of.
I can let Andre
bartering.
speak to that, cause he's the one that handles the maintenance and stuff and with those vehicles and he knows the routes, but I would say yes.
Cause I know.
I mean, the
people
only,
have been-
only way that we could reduce the ridership would be to implement a line that used to be used. It was called the Orange Line. And that was basically the Harvard and the Diamond Lake run. And then that would reduce the miles on the international buses just going north and south between UCC and Washington and Rose. And that was something that's been discussed, and even something that Randy was talking about before he left too, that how that would, because understanding that the least amount of mileage on our international buses is 192,000 miles.
Yeah.
And the maintenance cost for those vehicles, keeping them running, is exuberant.
Mhm.
And so that's the part way of thinking of implementing an orange line that does east and west, and then having the internationals go north and south. It would do a mile reduction on our older buses and also divide some of the ridership between the two routes to where they weren't. Because a lot of times the green line in the morning is ran much heavier than the red line. But by doing
Mhm.
north and south, it would create a balance.
So that's, I mean, that's an
Could we
interesting
then
concept.
use the smaller buses if we implement?
We could use the smaller buses on the Washington, on the basically the orange line, which would be the Harvard down through Melrose and then back to Diamond Lake on the Diamond Lake route, which would just be east and west only. And then basically the international buses would only be used from Washington and Rose to UCC. And basically it would speed up services and would also create less lag with the drivers because of having to use the lifts.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
That's a big problem with the buses is the lifts are
yeah.
antiquated and
Mhm.
there's no hydraulic systems and you have to, literally, they gotta get out on driver's side and do all this crazy stuff, and it could take 15 minutes to get somebody on the bus when there's a lift. That sets the whole thing into a.
Right.
Yeah, it's just very inefficiently designed,
Right.
but the ideas that Andre's talking about
Mhm,
are wonderful, and we need to get through this compliance stuff
mhm,
so that we can fix that.
right.
Like we're not big enough to where like we can manage both of those. We have all of our executive team
Yeah.
100% focused on compliance right now.
Well, and you guys get to decide if you wanna
Yeah.
change those routes up, if, you know, whatever. Right now,
At
we
least
want-
there are solutions.
There's
Yeah, I mean,
there's
that's
more
the thing,
solutions
yeah.
than you, it's like,
Yeah.
it's the most aggravating experience because there's all these problems happening and you can't fix them because we're
You're
literally,
mired.
our entire executive team is on compliance right now.
Yeah.
So what can this board do for you to
So,
tie some of this money and put it in the place where you guys need it?
Well, I would say my recommendation would be to move some of that money from the 540,000 and at least put it in the vehicle purchase. So that in the event we do get some of the wish money and we are able to apply for a grant.
You
that
have it there.
we
How
have
much
it
do you
there.
need for match?
Sherry, you can put like $100 in there
Oh, and then you can just adjust it?
and then make sure that your contingency fund says very clearly that this can be utilized for blah, 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 blah.
I love it,
Okay.
Jennifer.
Why
I
does that
love
not
it.
surprise me, Jennifer? But thank you, that is awesome.
So we're gonna put $100 in there and then we'll make sure our verbiage says that we can add more if we.
You have to know how to play the game.
You gotta know.
Jennifer knows how to play the game.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, Jennifer knows.
Every
Yeah,
asked
she's
guy
so
to
much.
tell us how to. play
She's
the game.
teaching us every day, all day.
Whatever.
Is there no
Okay.
mechanism in the transport, system of people, bartering, trading buses? I mean, and I was on the fire department for a while where I live. And we were constantly getting opportunities from other fire departments to pick up equipment.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we can absolutely do that.
That's
Because we've
another-
given
another
equipment to
thought, too.
other special districts.
Yeah.
The bus debacle that we were in prior, ODOT helped us find a home for those.
Perhaps we could pick up a larger bus in that manner.
Way too
Yes.
small for a
We
bid,
should try that. if
There you
we
go.
want to.
you know?
Okay, listen, you guys, as much as I'd like to spend all night here with you guys,
Yeah.
I would also like to move this along.
Let's
So,
do it.
So if we put $100 in that bucket for vehicle purchase. And that would reduce number 7 under project 2 to 539,978.
perfect. Okay,
And then that would still leave the 50,000 for the bus shelters and the 200,000 in technology improvement.
okay.
Unless we could do the same thing with those two that Jennifer stated, put $100 in there and then make sure the verbiage says.
100 in the capital improvement for building. Right
That
there.
actually isn't a bad idea to not, because then you're not limiting if you need.
In
money
case
for
we
the
need to do,
technology.
well, or in case we need to do, I mean, we don't have any capital improvements.
But we don't know
But
what's
we
gonna
don't know what's
happen.
gonna
What if
happen.
a pipe breaks?
Exactly, yeah.
So put $100 in there, reduce it another time,
Mhm.
500, so
539,
539, 878. Okay,
Wait, where are you putting that?
just putting it
Under
underneath,
project 6.
yeah,
Okay,
so we have vehicle purchase and capital improvement building. Okay, any other?
Do you wanna
recommendations?
leave the 250,000 in those other two?
but yeah,
Or
that's
do
what I
you
thought you were
want
talking about.
to-
If we don't give it, we give it the lesser amount, but we have the flexibility, I think, to me, that sounds. Like it's better because it gives them the flexibility of deciding where they need to put the money.
I think we're just combining those two, right? To make it 250?
Well, but
No,
rather
if we do
than
the
do
same
any
thing
amount.
to these that we did here,
Where are you putting those?
then the rest of the money would go back up here, and then we would label that one bucket. So that we could. use
If it's
it.
in project 2, does that restrict us from using it in project 3?
Jennifer, do we just make a separate project for the reserve funds?
I suggest,
It's-
yes, I would do it as a different
standalone.
project. Yeah, standalone project.
Okay,
So we take that 250,000 and the 539,878, those all become one separate project.
project 9,
Oh, wait, project, hold on.
we would make it project 9. We would just,
Would it be 9 or would you, or cause you're doing 100 for 7 and 8? And then you're making it
we
project
could
9.
still leave bus shelters, we could still label. Project 7 as bus shelters and,
Put 100.
Project
yeah,
8 is the
do
technology
100.
improvement,
yeah,
and then do the 9.
Okay, so we're reducing it by 200 more. Plus
And
adding.
Sherry,
200.
you can do just a capital, so you could have operations, you can have dial-a, you know, you can. You can put tasks under these, so you don't have 9 projects. You would have like 3 or 4 projects with multiple tasks underneath them.
Can you repeat that, Jennifer? Just so my brain was not tracking with
Yeah,
you.
I can't see your guys' stuff because my computer is still shut down, so I just have my home computer up, but you can do just like 3 or 4 projects. So you have the operations, you have a capital, you have administration. I don't know, I can't remember how you guys had it divided last time, but you don't have to have 9 projects per se, because you can put tasks underneath the projects.
Okay,
it could
so,
be a-
so like our project 1 is our population-based funding with all those tasks. We'll
And
leave that one.
I would keep that separate, yeah.
Right. Project 2 is our fixed route services with the different tasks, so I'm gonna keep that one.
Okay,
Project 3 is our demand response, so I think I would keep that one.
yeah, yep,
And project 4 is administrative, just administrative costs.
yeah.
And then after that, there's like project 5, 6, 7, and 8. One of them is vehicle purchase, one is capital improvement building, one is bus shelters, and one is the accounting.
I would do
software.
all of those as one project because they're all capital purchases. So you do one project capital and then the tasks underneath them.
Okay,
So it's like the reserve project with the tasks under, yeah.
Yeah, see that also gives you flexibility within keeping it all as one project because they're all capital projects. So if you complete like your software project as that capital project and you said you wanted $50,000 for that, you had that budget, it only cost you 25, then you're able to utilize that extra 25,000 for one of those other projects. If you keep it all in one project and then have them as tasks.
That's way easier.
okay.
And that way too.
And then
Makes it
would I
easier.
still make a task for the reserve?
Yes,
Under that?
contingencies, yep. So then you got it down to what, about 6 projects instead of 9?
So will that be its own project though? Project 6?
I would do it as a standalone.
Okay. And then just word it so that we could use it on any of those other things as long as we
Yep.
have the $100 in those other tasks?
Exactly, yep.
Okay,
So where are you moving? The
Okay.
539, 878? Where are
okay.
you moving that? Is that staying there?
Uh,
Are you
We're
making
gonna
project
move that.
7 like the reserve bucket with the
Yes.
tasks under it?
yes. So what we're gonna do is that task 7 on the first page under project 2,
Mm-hmm.
that is now going to just become project number 6.
Okay,
And that's gonna be 789,678.
all right, does everybody understand all the movement that happened?
So
And
that's
then-
the capital improvement part of that.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a
Is
test.
project set.
There's gonna be a test at the end.
And we will word that so that we can use
Have it
that
flexibility.
project 6 either for capital or
Right,
operations. Is that correct, Jennifer?
Yes, as long as
we have the
you're
$100.
vaguely specific about what you're using it for,
Okay,
then you can, yeah.
okay.
All right. Do we need this to be rewritten before we vote on this, or? Does everybody feel comfortable that we know where Sherry's moving all this money?
and
I think I
offshore.
Yeah.
tracked it pretty well.
Yeah, I think
I-
she's got it written down.
Yeah.
She has a pretty good hand.
Yeah,
I do.
Okay,
yeah.
so
There
I
is a
will,
question in the chat about Reedsport.
Oh,
is it public comment?
Public comment.
let me see.
Okay, then we'll wait. We'll wait until public comment for that. Okay, so
Okay.
I will entertain a motion to accept the stiff stack committee recommendations with the changes we just discussed.
So moved,
Kathy
I'd
moved,
say with the amendments.
moved
Yeah.
with amendment.
Ask and then-
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Was that John?
Yeah, John.
Yes, ma'am.
It was a
Okay.
dead tie.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I'd say we need to thank Sherry. You did a
Yeah,
good
thank
job
you.
on this. Yeah, and we also thank our committee
Yes.
for working
Yes.
very diligently on our behalf.
And Jennifer for her good.
Yes, thank
And
you.
Jennifer, yes,
Yes.
for
She
navigating.
saves the day.
Yes, she
Once again.
absolutely does.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to public comment on agenda items only. Do we have any public comment in the room? No? Okay, do we have any public comment online?
So we have one in the chat and it says, our services being provided in Reedsport. I did not see a schedule on the website for Reedsport.
So I'm just gonna say really quickly, public comment is meant for the public to make a comment towards us and
Not for
it's not a
discussion.
question and answer session. But I will defer to you to answer that question if you would like to.
So services are back up and running in Reedsport. What kind of schedule? I don't know what kind of schedule they're referring.
On the website, like a schedule.
So
to
that's
pick up.
demand response. It's
Yeah.
demand response, door-to-door services only.
Mhm.
So those calls have to come into the call center. And then the call center schedules the ride for the passenger. So there's not like there's
There's
not like
not
a
a
route or a schedule of any
Yeah.
kind.
Can you pull it up so that we can see all of the people in the chat room, just because we can't tell who's in there? Or if people are
Is it?
asking to speak or anything.
Do you know?
Participants, down at, see at the bottom right there where it says participants. No, down.
Down bottom middle.
Oh,
left.
sorry.
Right there. There we go.
Let me put them back up on them. Oop,
Oh,
that was too big. So we have.
We just have a
Natoka,
couple.
Sarah.
online. Okay, if there is anybody that has public comment on agenda item, if you want to just unmute yourself and identify yourself by name and city. Give it just a second. Sometimes it takes a second to unmute. Okay, we'll have public comment on not on agenda towards then. All right, let's move on then. Number 8 is our compliance update, and we are going to review and approve the drug and alcohol policy. Barry, you made the changes, right?
Yep, so the only changes that I made throughout the policy was changing the general manager to the chief.
CEO.
Yep, the CEO, and then naming the DAPM, the DIR and the DIR 1 and DIR 2, so George has been assigned as the DAPM.
Okay.
And then Andre is the DIR number 1.
Mhm.
And Selena is the DIR number 2, so that would be the chief compliance officer, the fleet maintenance and procurement manager, and the dispatch supervisor.
Perfect. And we have our little matrix here.
Yep, it's pretty much just this page on almost the very last page.
Perfect.
It was just, and we are all in the drug pool, so.
Okay, any questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
So
Okay, Kathy moves to accept. Is there a second?
Second,
Do it.
Greg got this
Greg
one.
won that
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving right along. New business, done. Project update, so that is gonna be you. And it should not say general manager's report, we gotta change that.
Yeah, we'll get that fixed.
CEO report, okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, just basically going over some of the things we've, been working on accomplishing, getting traction on since the last board meeting. Obviously, we're all head down on the 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, 120-day compliance. We onboarded George. George is huge to help take the weight off of Sherry, and he's experienced with these matters and has a lot of, just a wealth of experience dealing with government compliance. And so he's a perfect guy for the job. We're also moving some of the HR tasks over to him as well, which has been a breeze compared to the compliance stuff. But yeah, as you know, he's been working really hard. Sherry's been working really hard. They've been collaborating really well together. I knew that they would all make a great team. I remember the first meeting you guys had, both of you called me to tell me how much you liked each other. I thought,
Good.
there we go. That's what I'm talking about. In terms of that, we've been, I have some notes here about that. Yeah, I don't know what that says. It's hard to read my own writing, but anyway, we did move forward with changing over our IT companies. That happened at the same time the 30-day stuff this was our last board meeting. It literally began that same week. But we're really onto the other side of that process, and we're moving our document management to the cloud. We have a massive, like 4-foot by 5-foot server in here that is totally useless. And now we can be more mobile, and we can be more responsive to each other, and everybody can have access to certain documents, but not everybody has access to every document. So you have a layer of security, very secure system, but it makes it so that we can all collaborate on documents in real time. And so it's been an absolute necessity in working on these policy and procedural documents, working on our SOPs, that kind of thing. So it's been huge. That new IT company is absolutely a wonderful, Intego Tech, is that right? Intego Tech. Wonderful company. They've done a really, really good job. Their customer service is incredible. They're very fast, very responsive, very personal and personable, very, very great company. I mean, wow, such a great change.
One of their employees was with Cortec when we very first started with Cortec. So he's very familiar with how we're set up.
Yep.
So they do have someone there that's like, yeah, I remember that. And
Yeah.
he's able to
Yeah.
provide them with some
And
information.
we're really utilizing the full, like, we're subscribing to software programs through like Microsoft and things like that. We're fully utilizing those at this point, and maximizing the investment in that. And so that's really, really big. And so, anyway, we have our paper stuff and our paper documents and all that, but anyway, that's been moving along very well. And we'll start to clean up and remove or salvage or sell anything that we're not using, so that we can, take that value and give it back to the taxpayers.
Has your stack of boxes and all that.
The stack of boxes is downstairs in our document storage, locked
Yeah.
and whoever makes me the most mad this year has to go figure out what to keep and what to throw away.
Actually, Leanna's already been working on some.
But Leanna didn't even make me mad yet.
I know, but she's going
Everyone wants to
to.
be on the
She knows
stack
she's
of
going to,
boxes.
so she said, no, Leanne's awesome. I love that. And that's, again, this has been one of the things I think that's really key that I think the public needs to understand, is that the changing of the org chart, we really were able to utilize people and just move them into the right seats.
Right.
And everybody, all of us have support now. Like, you have direct support with AP and AR, and George is supporting all of us in the compliance side. And I think every time we have one of these meetings, like in 4 weeks from now, we have the next meeting, Sherry's gonna be more and more into financial management, direct financial management, and seeking of funds to help improve services, which I think that organizational strategy, it was a very strong thing to do, because it actually set us up to be able to meet the requirements to our government agencies that we serve. Because let's face it, the majority of administration in this place is serving other government agencies. It's not the people out there, it's not the bus riders, it's not the people who need transit, okay? There's a whole development that does it. Administrative. That's why administrative expenses are so heavy in government, because you're literally, every time you get money, you are signing a deal with the devil that you have to give them all this compliance. And so we're it's crazy how much money is spent just in that alone.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's for our politicians to figure out. I'm gonna, but we're gonna meet those things and hopefully, we'll be able to free up. And I'm really seeking to get out of the organization from the standpoint of building relationships with, our community and helping getting them to put in on some of this too. Because we're carting everybody around and everyone's benefiting, but only the state of Oregon and the feds are helping. So we need some more partners. So that's a big thing. And then, you know, we onboarded George, we onboarded the executive assistant, which is gonna be really critical in organizing these meetings and making sure that my emails are being looked at, because I just don't do it. You get too busy. One of the cool things that happened, and it just kind of happened today, was remember last month when we did we moved $5,000 from the training budget over to our advertising so we could start building our own advertising program here. I have had the opportunity to dig into our current advertising program. Okay, it's getting tossed. However, we've developed a relationship with the University of, the Umpqua Community College, UCC. And so I've made a decision to work with the UCC to do our first full wrap bus to show the world what we can do, and they're gonna pay for all the price of carrying it for a 6-month contract. So it's a very cool thing. UCC is very cool. We have buses that stop right there and we have our drivers take breaks right there, so it's like an end of the line. They flip over and they called and they said, "Man, we want to be on the bus." And I said, "Well, I got an idea for you, because I think it would be really cool to work with you guys to showcase what our new advertising program is going to do." And so, yeah, they're in the process of doing their budgeting, and I think we have a deal. I mean, we have a tentative deal to make that happen. So
That's
they're
amazing.
excited. Yeah, they're excited. They're really excited.
cool.
Yeah, so and I'm excited too, because we're gonna show that we can actually support our small business, our community.
Yeah.
By giving people these mobile billboards. And we'll get really more into this as I get freed up from the crisis stage of this and we can really start to build. But we'll build a really robust advertising program. And like I said, I think we can pull at least 150,000 a year in discretionary revenue that can really be put back into the experience of our customers, which are the riders.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing. I can't wait to get involved with that. Because I think that's super critical. So, yeah, anyway, that's kind of what we've been doing. And I think, the money's well tended to with Sherry, the policies are being, diving into this side of it. And then, I'm working on trying to get, start, hopefully soon in the next couple of months, it'll be, a lot of my work will be in community relationship and partnership development, which is what it should be. I think you have people that look inside of an organization, you got CEOs that should be looking on the outside. And so I'm looking forward to that.
On ridership,
Got a little taste of
we
it.
had,
Yeah.
we just had a record.
Yep,
John has his hand up as well.
John.
Yes. I just had a question about ridership. I was looking at one of the charts, and one of the interesting things is what you see after May, what is it? 24, I believe. It's this, I don't know which chart. It's a 13-month rolling ridership chart. But you see a significant drop in UPTD paratransit. Is that because we lost a vehicle, or is it just that there's no demand for that, or what?
So what you're gonna see is a flip-flop with the paratransit in May. If you remember, we did some service cuts. And with those service cuts, it created, so we, the commuter route is what triggers the need for the paratransit, I believe. Jennifer, can you speak?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So
Please.
when you have you used to have what we call commuter routes to Winston and Sutherland. And then the board made the determination to go ahead and move at Cheryl's request to move it forward to have it as a fixed route.
Right.
When you implement a fixed route, it causes you to go into the threshold of having paratransit, which is a much higher cost. And that was one of the reasons you guys were in the hole, was because of the paratransit. When you changed that up in May, you switched it back to commuter routes, which took you out of needing to have the paratransit. So people went back to Dial-A-Ride that needed those special rides, but you did not have to have the paratransit.
And the paratransit is it's a guaranteed ride. So if somebody calls in, we have to find a place for them.
Right.
Demand response is not a guaranteed ride. So if we are busy, we just have to turn the ride down. So,
I was just
paratransit was more expensive to run for sure.
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, my only concern was, are we somehow not serving the folks that need paratransit? By looking at the data, you said you decided not to use that mode of transportation, that unit of transportation that you're using.
We just converted some of the services from fixed route back to commuter, and that it's a lesser need now for the paratransit.
Yeah, it's just so.
But it's a more of a, it's demand response. It kind of flip flops with demand response. Before there was less requirement for demand response and more for para. Now it's less for para and more for demand response. But because demand response is not a guaranteed ride, you don't have to find a spot for them.
And what
where
it
the
came down to
paratransit
is
you
we
do.
just couldn't afford it, John.
It was very,
We
it's
didn't
very
have-
expensive.
Okay,
We didn't
okay,
have the
that's fine.
option to do it, unfortunately. And in the future, I mean, that's what we just were talking about with our funding. You know, we do have some funds there, some wish money to expand service if we get that money.
Right.
And we would love to, of course. We're in the business of transportation.
And Sherry, you don't
Yeah.
show a whole bunch of rides that were turned down in your, because you have those statistics that you keep as
We
far
do.
as ride cancellations or ride. Yeah, so you don't have a ton of those. So obviously you're still meeting the needs of the community. So that's a good
We
thing.
are. Yep.
Yep.
That's the important part. I was just concerned whether we're meeting the needs of the community, and the answer is yes, you are. So,
We are.
okay, so that was my concern the most. The other part is just, if we had more equipment, is it a profitable thing? If you had all the money in the world and you could buy all the vehicles you want, would there be a demand on the demand side for paratransit? You know, I understand we may have made some cuts because of overall cost considerations, but if you had the money in the future, in other words, if you if you ask for a grant next year, for example, to serve that need, would that be is that a good move that you might be looking forward to pursuing? That's kind of just a look ahead. So just offering my advice that look into that, because it might be profitable, assuming we can get a grant for a vehicle, if that's required. I'm not sure what
Well, we've got plenty of vehicles to provide paratransit and demand response. We just got all those 9 new vans last year. So we have plenty of vehicles. It's just, we ended up letting 5 drivers go last year too. So,
Okay,
but
it's just
with,
you're rearranging.
with the fixed being converted to commuter, and now there's not that demand for the paratransit, it has helped decrease our costs, because the paratransit is going to be your most expensive mode of service.
Yeah, and a
Okay.
lot of times what people will do, instead of going directly from like a commuter to a fixed route, they'll go commuter to a deviated fixed, which even having a deviated fixed, you're not pushed over into that paratransit threshold, but you still have opportunity to have the fixed route with the little deviations that pick up the people that need those rides. So that's something to consider, like, going forward.
Yeah,
Okay,
Which is far cheaper than the on-demand.
yeah. Mhm.
so
And-
can I just take this opportunity to ask kind of an important question? I was thinking about it a week ago or so. Why, and Ben's probably already thought about this, but is it possible to start a service that goes from Roseburg, for example, to somewhere Eugene to service the airport? Or is that just out of our we're out of our lane when we're doing something like that? Or because I would think the demand might be pretty high.
So those are things I think that were discussed in our master transit plan, and those were things that, you know, like in our current stiff plan, we were planning if we were gonna do an expansion of services was to connect the dots, like connect us to Lane County, connect
Yes.
us to Medford, so that people can get all the way from Medford to Roseburg to Eugene if needed.
And there's some funding benefits with doing that too.
There are,
because
we
you
also
get
have
additional-
meetings on the books right now in January with ODOT to discuss
Yeah,
that.
yep.
Yeah, so we'll have
Yeah.
info for you on that.
Love transit.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
bet.
All right, so that moves us over to not on agenda. We just heard our first not on agenda. Thanks, John. Is there
I'm out of
any
order.
Any other not on agenda items? Guys,
I just have a couple of quick things, if I could.
yeah, sure.
That were not on mine. So I just want to just give you a couple of, cautionary statements. So I do need to have the contract. If you started a new software, I do need to have that contract in order to make any payments with it. If you did a contract with a new software company or a
IT.
computer company, IT company. Yeah,
And
so I
Ingotech?
need to get that current contract as part of your guys's file. And then you want to just be careful about throwing away too many papers because you do have to follow Oregon record retention law. So
Yes.
please don't just full scale throw everything away, follow the retention law schedule. So please do that.
Get a giant shredder.
We would
Yeah.
never,
No.
never
No, Leanna's very
destroy
diligent.
documents.
There's
Okay,
just-
very good.
There was a lot of duplicate and triplicate of the same thing, that's. a lot
I
of those
remember The
boxes.
Office. Meow, meow, meow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
So-
I
other
have not
thing
used my
is,
shredder once.
It's
okay,
preserved.
okay.
Yes.
Alright. And then
And here's-
just making
here's
sure that you
that.
have backup system, because that is a requirement. You have to have some sort of backup system for all of your files electronic.
Yep.
Yep, everything's backed up, yep.
And then just as far as the compliance, it's okay for you to make modifications, but the compliance report that RLS did was very specific on things that you need to add. So before you have George go taking things out and making it simpler, I think it would be better to follow the guidelines this time. And then after you get your, yes, this is good, you can start working on creating a more simplified, but you have to have all the requirements in that guidance. So I just want to be give you that cautionary, and then just request whenever possible, and I know you all are working as hard as you can, but if it's possible to get the stuff just a little bit ahead of the deadline, then that gives me time to review it before you approve things. And that way, because I have 8 other agencies that I'm working with as well. So as much as I love working with you guys all the time,
Are they always fun as us now?
but and I only have so many hours in a day,
Yes.
If we could get all of those deadlines just doubled.
I've tried on some of them, so we'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, the art of the
Thank you,
deal,
Jennifer.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have an update on any of those, Jennifer, that we've requested with the audit?
Did you ask for George? Is that what you said?
No,
No,
Jennifer
Jennifer.
requested a couple of extensions. just
Because
with
we're
the
not gonna
audit.
get our single audit findings until the end of this month, and it doesn't make sense for it to already be due, because we can't technically
Yeah.
do
Address
anything
it
about it.
until we get the audit, yeah.
No, I have a really hard time getting decisions, but I'm
Okay.
gonna ask again. So I've twice sent emails, so we'll see where I get tomorrow.
Well, I know that the auditor is working on it because she did email me on Friday at like 7 o'clock at night, but I emailed her back the response today, this morning, so
Awesome.
I know she's working on the single audit for sure.
I'm sure that she's probably trying her hardest because, yeah, they haven't done such a great job the last.
They are really trying to get that done by 12/31. They're committed to that, so
Oh, good.
I'm hoping,
Oh,
yes.
Happy
Okay.
New Year's.
all right. Public comment, not on agenda items. Do we have anybody left in there?
Sarah, nobody else?
If you wanna speak, unmute yourself.
Nothing.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to agenda build then. We need to move the November 18 minutes to next time. We're gonna do tonight's minutes. What is it, the 16th? Of course, Jennifer again. Financial report. We'll already have the stiff stack.
Yeah, I can
Submitted.
give an update on it.
So,
Well,
okay.
yeah, I can give an update if you
So-
want.
Okay, yeah, let's do a stiff stack update.
On the STIP plan.
Yeah, and then, public comment, of course. We'll go back over our compliance update. We'll have 60-day, we'll be past 60 days.
Yeah.
So you will let me know if I need to call a special meeting for the 60-day items. Yes,
Yes,
okay,
I will.
okay, so we'll do 60-day items, otherwise. We'll call another meeting.
We also will do 90-day items.
Let's do 90-day too.
Yeah.
Okay, 90-day items. We'll
The
try.
list
to
gets
start
fewer
working
and
it.
fewer,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily bigger.
Mhm,
This procurement issue
mhm.
Is gonna,
is ongoing,
Yes.
and it wasn't laid out that way.
Yeah.
So we were actually kind of set up to have to keep on coming back.
Mhm,
for
Because
the
it-
procurement.
Yeah, we should have
mhm.
seen that, but it's
It was
such
too
a
much
huge
to
amount
do.
of
Yeah.
information that you can't even.
I know. So we also need to go back to the procurement that we just tabled from today. So. We'll go back over the procurement policy under compliance update next time. Any new business? Well. I guess in your general manager's report, you can talk about advertising.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah.
okay,
And I know along with the advertising, we do have to, I know Jennifer did mention that we have to, we have to advertise it on the website and do like an RFP type of thing for people that are interested in it, so.
To present our program,
mhm.
right?
For them to want to add on, to advertise on our buses.
Yeah, to present it, yeah, of course.
Present it out to the public.
We have a meeting on the books with
And
our
then-
web company in January, so that website is, yeah. You just can't do something like
Yeah, I just know there's a
Put your
process, so we'll have to.
program on that website, so
Sure,
we have to figure that out.
but they're
and determine-
paying us. It's
If
not,
I-
we're not using federal funds,
Right,
right?
but Jennifer, what's the requirement for that? That we still have to give the public equal opportunity, right? The people out there that might wanna advertise. She's still there.
We can figure that out
Sorry.
later.
Yeah.
You don't have
Yeah,
to-
I'll
Okay.
give you the information. Yeah.
I'm sure it's
Oh,
very detailed.
new business though, let's put, board training. And hopefully we'll have that date. You're gonna have,
Amira,
Amira set that up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That's in my notes too, but Yeah, I
So
wrote
we'll
it down,
put that
but now
under new
that's,
business.
that makes sense. That's what I wrote.
Perfect.
See?
Okay, so that'll be
Makes
new
sense.
business, on agenda, we can maybe move our executive session to next time if Ron can join us.
Yeah,
Unless, are we doing it tonight?
I don't think we need to do it tonight.
Okay, so we're
Yeah.
gonna table executive session to next time.
Yeah, let's do that.
And let's get.
We may have
Ron
more.
confirmed.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, if you guys don't stop me, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting, so
Oh, God.
5, 4,
No one stopped.
3. What time is it? I can't see the clock.
7:20.
It is 7:20 and we're adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.